Vixie. I hope you're having a great day and hope it only gets better. Welcome to Fallout New Vegas. Kind of. I'm recording this and I'm not actually playing New Vegas right now, but hey, you have B-roll. I figured, given recent developments and the fact I'm still not feeling 100%, I would do something relatively simple, and that relatively simple thing has actually evolved into something a bit bigger. Because today, we are going to be going through and rating each and every unique weapon in Fallout New Vegas. I figured, hey, since Fallout's in the limelight again because of the TV show, and a bunch of people love New Vegas, and my past videos of New Vegas has done pretty well, I figured I'd do something like this. A few notes before we get into this, though. I am going to exclusively rate things that are true uniques, so you only get them once, there's only one of them, and you can only repair it with, like, generic versions of that, so I won't be rating Ranger Sequoia or Red Glare or anything like that. Because while those are special variants of existing guns, technically in the case of Red Glare, you can get multiple of them, thus making them not true uniques. Additionally, I am just running my normal New Vegas game for like the B-roll and stuff, which is heavily modded, and most notably, I have the Project Nevada mod installed, which I am probably going to end up uninstalling, because what I thought was going to be a simple rebalance and immersion mod, it was a lot more impactful than I had assumed. And it actually changes the way damage scales in some parts, which you can change, and I did change back to default, as well as adding new mechanics and changing the visual effects and visuals of quite a few weapons, including uniques, which we will see in the B-roll. So, yeah, that's not what I wanted, so I'm probably going to uninstall that. But as far as B-roll goes, for some of the unique weapons that aren't particularly the best in the world, the background footage I've recorded of them is just going to look a lot like this. And seeing as how this is the most boring thing in the universe, whenever we have a weapon that is not particularly good and is just me smacking a Deathclaw for the next 10 minutes, I will be making sure that you're all still visually stimulated by introducing Breakcore Skeleton. He'll make sure that you have something to look at when that's going on. I think I'm actually going to split this up into multiple videos. I have all the B-roll recorded and everything, but I don't want to keep you guys sitting around for a 2-hour-long video. So we'll have this video be rating every melee unique in New Vegas, and we'll come back probably next week to do the guns, and then we'll probably finish off with energy weapons and explosives. We'll see how things go. One last thing before we get to the actual content of the video, which is going to be a pretty long one. I'll try to keep it short, but you know how these go. I would like to highlight the comment of the week. Similarly to last week, I think, there was no theme or anything like that, so I just picked out this comment from the Raging Panda. It's pretty long, so I am not going to read it myself, but we'll sit here and enjoy it, and you can go ahead and read it yourself while I say, if you would like to become the next comment of the week, leave a comment down below. I think we will do a theme this week. So, seeing as how this is a Fallout video, tell me, what was your first Fallout game, and did you start playing Fallout because of the TV show? By the next time I post a video, I'm not sure if it's going to be next week or not, I will have picked out my personal favorite comment, and that comment may just be you, and you will be highlighted as the next comment of the week. We are starting off with the unarmed unique weapons, starting with the Cram Opener, the unique bladed gauntlet. You get the Cram Opener by retrieving the weapon from off of the corpse of Little Buster after speaking to him in Camp McCarran. Eventually, he will turn up dead in Freeside next to the train tracks, and you'll be able to grab yourself this unique weapon. This thing's pretty cool, as would most likely be expected from a unique weapon. It's stronger, does higher crit damage, and has a pretty similar but still higher critical chance. Generally, it's an unarmed weapon, so they're not amazing, but the Bladed Gauntlet is really solid. I would rate this maybe a 7 out of 10, because it is pretty cool. Moving on to something less good, we have Dr. Klein's Glove from the Old World Blues DLC. This fancy glove is located in Higgs Village in the Big MT, and it is specifically in house number 101 in the upstairs. It's just kind of hanging out in the bottom corner of a cabinet, and you can pick this up, and you can firmly place it in your collection and not bother using it. This is a unique surgical gauntlet, or surgical glove. It's not a gauntlet at all, it's just a glove. And as to be expected, it's not great. To give this thing literally anything going for it, it has a special effect where if you punch someone, you might proc the Science debuff, which inflicts a -5 to the target's energy weapon skill and a -2 to the target's strength. And when you get a crit, you get the Science POW effect, which inflicts an additional -1 to strength and a -1 to the target's damage threshold for 60 seconds. Ooh. Yeah. This thing's not good. The minus strength is okay for melee things, but aside from that, this thing is basically useless. So, it's gonna be a 2 from me. Remaining in the why even bother category, we have Dr. Mobius's Glove. Another unique glove, but this time it's a unique chemical glove, which I'm pretty sure is just the surgical glove but black. Either way, you get this funky little doodad in the Forbidden Zone where Dr. Mobius is, similarly in the Big MT because it's from the same DLC, and it's just hanging out on a table. This similarly has a unique effect called Madness, which also does a -5 to energy weapons, but a -2 to perception. Ooh, so I guess people with guns won't hit you quite as often. Wow, how helpful. But hey, when you crit, at least they get knocked back and frenzied, so there's that at least. Only marginally better than Dr. Klein's glove. I still don't know why you would even bother using this, but hey, we're gonna give this a solid 3 out of 10. Moving on to an actual weapon, Embrace of the Mantis King. That's the only way that I believe you should be able to say this. Embrace of the Mantis King is a unique Mantis gauntlet you buy from Mick if you have the Gunrunner's Arsenal DLC, and unlike the previous 2 gloves, this thing is actually really solid. Much like the standard Mantis Gauntlet, it has a bonus to its crit damage and crit chance, so if you're doing a crit build, this is a really solid choice. And over the standard Mantis Gauntlet, you get higher durability and a higher caps value, I guess, if you want to sell it. But most importantly, it does more damage and it does higher crit damage, while still having the same 3 times critical chance multiplier that the Mantis Gauntlet does. After using this, yeah, it's really solid. It's kind of expensive because, you know, you can only buy it from Mick, and the uniques you have to buy are really, really expensive, especially seeing how Charisma is largely seen as a dump stat in Fallout New Vegas. But if you can fork over the caps, this thing is really solid, and I do recommend it for an unarmed build. We're gonna give this an 8 out of 10. Moving on to the Lonesome Road DLC, we have the Fist of Rawr. This is a unique Deathclaw gauntlet that, as you can probably expect, you get this by looting the unique hand off of the Deathclaw Rawr in the Lonesome Road DLC, and then crafting it into a unique Deathclaw gauntlet at a workbench. An important note, though, is you need an unarmed of 75 to be able to craft this. But once you have that, you have a very, very, very solid weapon. Additionally, if you have the Wild Wasteland trait, which is the fun trait, this will actually change its name from Fist of Rawr to Fist of the North Rawr, which is referencing Fist of the North Star, the manga and anime. So that's kind of fun. If you like that, you might want to take the Wild Wasteland trait when you make your character. Generally, it's good. It's a Deathclaw gauntlet, which are just really good. It has the 2nd highest crit damage of all unarmed weapons, which is pretty damn good. It doesn't require much HP, and it has a double crit chance multiplier. So yeah, this is really solid. We're gonna give this a 9. Going back to the base game, we have the Golden Gloves, which are unique boxing gloves. You can find these bad boys in the Lucky 38 in the VIP lounge. Spoke a bit too quickly there. And they are situated directly on top of a shelf behind the bar with a framed issue of Boxing Times right behind it. They're cool, they look fun. I don't recommend you using them. They do fatigue damage, so they can knock out your enemies. However, once you knock them out, if you are using the Golden Gloves, you should probably switch to an actual weapon, because these things do not do a whole lot of damage. As would be expected from, you know, protective padding to make sure boxers don't kill each other, these things do not have damage. They have the lowest damage per strike of every unarmed weapon in the game, but they inflict fatigue damage, so that's good, I guess. And if you're looking for a fatigue melee weapon, they deal the most. They deal 50 points of fatigue damage, as opposed to the 35 of the standard boxing glove, and that's about it. They require a skill of unarmed 0 and a strength of 1 to use properly. 4 out of 10. Going back to the Gunrunner's Arsenal DLC, we have Greased Lightning. You can get Greased Lightning in the Hidden Valley bunker sold by Torres once you've completed the Still in the Dark quest. Or, alternatively, you can kill Torres and then this thing shows up at the Gunrunner's Vendertron. Now, when it comes to unique unarmed weapons, once you use Greased Lightning, you will never want to go back to any other unarmed weapon, because this thing is absolutely fucking bonkers, and I love it. Unlike most unique weapons, this actually has a significantly lower damage per hit compared to the standard Power Fist. That is because it is the second fastest unarmed weapon in the game, second only to the Industrial Hand, which is literally just a buzzsaw on your hand. You can spam attacks like crazy with this thing. You don't even notice how low the damage is because you're just throwing so much. It has a low damage, a low crit hit damage, but it also has a proportionally low AP cost, so you can spam it quite a lot in VATS. And it's an improved holdout weapon, so you can sneak this bad boy into casinos. It may be weaker in every regard compared to the Power Fist, but you throw so many hits you will never notice. This thing is awesome. I consider this to be like the best unarmed weapon, so it's gonna get a 10 out of 10. Stepping back to the base game, here's a unique you can get relatively soon on into your playthrough, if you're lucky and know how to be careful. We have Love and Hate, unique knuckle dusters, specifically unique spiked knuckles, because there's two different versions. You get this weapon after killing the Viper gang leader that is wielding them at Bonnie Springs, just north of Good Springs. Very, very close to the starting town, but there you have to fight through some Cazadors, and at that point you will also have to kill all of the Vipers to be able to get it. Compared to the other Knuckle Duster weapons, Love and Hate deals the most damage per strike and has the fastest attack speed. So if you want to use specifically Knuckle Dusters, Love and Hate are a really, really good option. It has the highest crit damage of all of them and has a standard 1x crit multiplier. And most importantly, it has the third lowest AP cost of all unarmed weapons, so if you're doing unarmed VATS, it's a pretty good choice. I would still personally go with Greased Lightning, but Love and Hate are fairly solid, especially for a Knuckle Duster, which, compared to most other fist weapons like the Power Fist and the Industrial Hand, they're not generally good. But Love and Hate, it's pretty solid. 7 out of 10. Moving on to the Paladin Toaster, a unique zap glove. The Paladin Toaster is located in Blackrock Cave, north by northeast of Novak, and it is simply sitting on the body of a dead prospector in said cave. You're gonna have to kill some Nightkin to get it, but if you're relatively on level for the area, you should be fine. It deals a little bit more damage than the standard zap glove, and has a pretty similar attack speed. It has a little bit of extra crit damage at the standard 1x crit multiplier, and is on the low end of AP cost. The biggest selling point of this weapon is its bonus damage to robots and power armor, which is why it's called the Paladin Toaster, which it also shares with the standard zap glove. But with this being an improved unique version, if you want to pick one or the other, you should probably go with the Paladin Toaster. Also, in my testing, I did notice that when this thing crits, it is a shocking amount of damage. No pun intended. I'm not sure if there's anything weird about it, because I wasn't punching robots or anything. I was punching Deathclaws, which don't get any extra damage against them, but the crits hit real hard. I would say, generally, it is very okay. If you used it against robots or power armor, I'd imagine this thing would probably put in a lot of work. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Moving on to Pushy, the unique Displacer Glove. You can find this bad boy in Ruby Hill Mine, just down the road east from Jacobstown, and it is sitting on the body of a dead Jackal gang member. It can be kind of annoying to get to, but if you're looking for a unique Displacer Glove, you have this, I guess. You know the drill, it does higher damage, and it's slightly faster, that's kind of cool. Higher crit damage, generally okay. In my experience, this thing wasn't the best, but it was definitely usable, so I think this is a firm 5 out of 10. Next up, we have Recompense of the Fallen, which is the unique dog tag fist, which is the dumbest unarmed weapon in the entire game. As you can tell from my tone here, I don't like the dog tag fists. It's so stupid. You can get this bad boy at Cottonwood Cove, found on the desk of Aurelius of Phoenix. It does higher damage and it's faster than standard dog tag fist, but who cares? Dog tag fist is terrible. Terribly bad. And Recompense of the Fallen is no different. It's stupid, it's a bad weapon, and it's just generally, it has nothing going for it. 1 out of 10. Stepping into the Honest Hearts DLC, we have Salt Upon Wounds Power Fist. As can be expected from the name, you get this bad boy by killing Salt Upon Wounds and looting it off his body. So the only downside here is you do have to complete the Honest Hearts DLC to be able to get it, because, you know, you get to kill Salt Upon Wounds at the very end. If for whatever reason you don't pick this up off his body, you will get a second chance to get it once you go to the footlocker that spawns in front of the Southern Passage during Departing Paradise, which you will also get another unique weapon that is much cooler than this, but that's not to say that this thing isn't cool. It's a unique Power Fist, and generally to expected, it's okay, it's good, whatever, but it also deals poison damage, so that's pretty cool. I'm not quite sure if this is the case, but in Fallout 3, weapons that dealt poison damage, you were able to stack it, so having poison damage on something is really, really solid. I would say, generally, it's okay. It's not the best, it's not the unarmed weapon I would go for, but it's pretty good. I would give this like a 6.5 out of 10, because it does look pretty cool. Remaining in Zion, we are taking a look at She's Embrace. You get this weapon for completing the Rite of Passage quest, which requires you taking drugs and killing a bear, to quote the game, and retrieving the ghost of She's paw from her body. Once you do that, you go in, you turn in the quest, and you get She's Embrace. This is a unique Yao Guai gauntlet, very similar to Deathclaw gauntlets, but this time a bear. It's a little bit stronger, you know the deal. It has a pretty high 3x crit chance multiplier, so that's pretty notable. And it actually ignores damage resistance and damage threshold, so this thing effectively deals true damage. With that in mind, this thing hits pretty hard. The Deathclaw gauntlets do the same thing, and I'm pretty sure that includes the Fist of Rawr. So if I'm gonna go with a gauntlet made from the hand of a dead enemy, I'm probably gonna go with that instead. So we're gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. Finishing off the unique unarmed weapons, we have the Two-Step Goodbye, a unique ballistic fist. This is one of many unique weapons sold by the Vendortron at the Gunrunners. So yeah, you're probably gonna have to fork over quite a lot of caps if you want this thing. It's slightly weaker this time than the standard ballistic fist, but it still does the second highest damage of all unarmed weapons, so it doesn't really matter all that much. And it is faster than the standard ballistic fist, so it has that going for it. It trades quite a lot of crit damage as a trade-off for a unique effect, where if you kill someone with this thing, there is a small chance that after a 2-second delay, the body will explode like a frag grenade. However, in my experience, that explosion doesn't really do much, but it's definitely cool. Generally, I would say, It is cool if you kill someone with a crit, they will explode, but I've never really gotten anyone to die from the explosion, because when you kill someone with this, you also like throw them away. So, it's cool, I'm not gonna use it. We're gonna give this a 4.5 out of 10. Before we move on to the unique melee weapons, I would like to give a quick shout out to all of my current patrons who have supported me for quite some time at this point, and I very much appreciate all of you. If you would like to join their ranks, you can do so for just $5 a month on my Patreon, and you will get a bunch of cool perks, such as work in progress art, whether it be for thumbnails or just something I happen to be working on, early access to videos, full resolution thumbnail art if you're into that sort of thing, and most importantly, you will get exclusive content accessible on another channel where you can see uncut and director's cut content purely for your viewing pleasure, and sometimes you might even get a fully unique video every so often if for whatever reason I don't feel like posting it to the main channel. Additionally, whenever I get enough patrons to support this sort of idea, I will eventually start taking suggestions from my patrons for games to play for the channel. So if any of that catches your fancy, make sure to go to the link in the description and check out my Patreon. Once again, a huge shout out to all of my current patrons, and now we will move on to the unique melee weapons. Seeing as how generally unique weapons will tend to be a little bit stronger and have a little bit more damage, whatever. I'm gonna skip saying that from going forward just to try and make this go by a bit faster. Moving on, we have the Blade of the East, a unique bumper sword. The biggest downside to this weapon is in fact how you get it. First off, you have to be siding with the NCR Mr. Hauser Yes Man, and then you have to kill Legate Lanius and then taking it off of his corpse. So, long story short, for people who haven't beaten the game yet, you have to kill the final boss to get his weapon, and unfortunately, you don't continue playing after you beat the game. You can go back to previous save, but then you won't have the Blade of the East. So, you can't really use this thing outside of, like, killing random legionaries at the final encounter. That's pretty much it. Over the standard bumper sword, it does quote-unquote bleed damage. They take -2 HP damage every second for 10 seconds per strike. Stacking DOT is very, very strong. And it has a unique attack that is shared with a few other unique melee weapons of the Mauler attack, which can be used in VATS. It costs more AP, but it will always, and I mean always, toss your enemy away, knocking them down and making them ragdoll and being really, really funny. While that is cool, it is also shared with a melee weapon I like a lot more, and is shared with a melee weapon that you don't have to beat the game to use for 30 seconds. So, purely from the restriction of you not being able to use this thing, I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 10. Moving on to Bloodnap, a unique Bowie knife. You get this thing in the Courier's Mile after completing the Lonesome Road DLC, so you're not gonna be seeing it for a while. This thing is considered an improved holdout weapon because it's just a knife. You can conceal this pretty easy, and it has the unique effect of temporarily increasing your sneak by 10 when you equip it, which I guess if you wanted to, you could just hotkey it and really quickly switch back and forth between it to keep that buff up if you want to be real sneaky about it. It's kind of cool. That's really all I have to say about it. It's kind of cool. It's okay. I would give it a 6 out of 10. Onto the Broad Machete. You'll get this thing immediately if you have the Courier Stash DLC installed, and not at all if you don't. It's just one of many starter weapons you get for having the various Stash DLCs, and as would be expected for a free starter bonus weapon, it's very okay at the beginning of the game, but very quickly falls off. 5 out of 10. It's not the best one you get from this. Onto Chance's Knife, a unique combat knife. As to be expected, you get this thing from Chance's Grave, just north of Goodsprings. You do need a shovel to get it though, because you could probably connect the dots together by me saying it's at Chance's Grave and you need a shovel to get it. This knife actually has a pretty little interesting bit of trivia to it. This is the knife that was used by the character Chance from the All Roads graphic novel, which is a companion piece to Fallout New Vegas. I can't remember if it came out before or after, but it's basically showing what happens to the lead up to the beginning of the game involving Benny, Jessup, and McNurphy, and eventually the Courier. So it's pretty interesting. That being said, it's a unique combat knife, so it's not great, but it looks metal as hell, and I would rate this purely based off of visuals, a 7 out of 10. Moving on to Chopper, a unique meat cleaver. You get this weapon in Wolfhorn Ranch, and it's just sitting on a stove against the right side wall, and you can just pick it up and leave. This is actually a weapon I like quite a lot, and is a really solid early game weapon. So long as you can get to the Wolfhorn Ranch and you can just get it for free, it's a pretty solid start choice for a melee character, and I almost always pick it up anytime I am doing a melee character. Similarly to a standard meat cleaver, it does bonus limb damage, so you can cripple things easier, and that can come in very handy. However, I don't recommend trying to chop the legs off of a Deathclaw because they will probably kill you long before you can. Seeing as how this is a weapon I actually enjoy and I actually use, at least in the base game, or the early game, I should say, I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10 because I'm biased and this is my list anyway. Next up is Figaro, a unique straight razor. You either get this after killing and looting Sergio, the barber in the King's School of Impersonation, almost got that on the first try, or you can just pickpocket off of him. And a funny, notable thing is you didn't used to be able to get this thing if you played the console version, and that's pretty much the most notable thing about it, because it's a unique straight razor, so it's not great. I would give this a 3 out of 10. Coming back to the Gunrunner's Arsenal with Gehenna. You buy this off of the Gunrunner's Vendertron, like a lot of uniques, and it is a unique shish kebab, which, with the shish kebab being a very solid weapon from the get-go, Gehenna is even better, especially when you pair it with a dedicated melee build and the Pyromaniac perk. This thing gets absolutely bonkers, and I can say nothing but praise for this. I absolutely love Gehenna. There we go. If it were not for exactly one other unique melee weapon, I would say, for me, this is the best melee weapon in the game. I love it. So with that in mind, it's gonna get a 9 out of 10. And funnily enough, right after it, we have Knock Knock, a unique fire axe. You get this weapon in Camp Searchlight in the fire station, and it's hanging out in the bathroom, funnily enough. But just because this is found in the bathroom doesn't mean it's shit. The fire axe from the get-go is a very solid melee weapon, and this does more damage, so it's even better. And much like the Blade of the East, it gets the unique Mauler attack, so you can toss people in vats and then proceed to just wail on them until the cows come home, or, you know, until they die. Which, theoretically, you can keep going if you wanted to. I won't stop you. And unlike the Blade of the East, you can actually get this in the game and use it without the game ending 30 seconds later. Knock Knock is by far my favorite melee weapon. It is, for me, the best melee weapon in the game. I always grab it anytime I do a melee character. This thing is a solid 10 out of 10. Going back down a bit, we have the Liberator, a unique machete. This weapon is hanging out in Nelson and is wielded by Dead Sea. If you are a Legion character, you will be rewarded the weapon after completing the We Are Legion quest. And if you are not Legion, you can go ahead and stroll right on into Nelson, kill Dead Sea, and loot it off of his corpse, which is what I recommend. That being said, it's a unique machete, so it's a very okay weapon. It'll probably be able to, put in some work until you get into mid-game, but at that point you'll probably end up finding a better melee weapon than this. But generally, it's okay. So, 5 out of 10. On to Nephi's Golf Driver. As you can probably expect from the name, you get this thing from Driver Nephi, either independently after killing him, or killing him for the 3-card bounty quest. You can loot it off of his corpse, and if you don't, you miss it. But all in all, you're not missing out on much. As you could probably expect, it is a unique golf club, and as you could further expect, it's not great, because golf clubs are not dedicated weapons. But it does get a unique VATS attack in form of 4, which, it's just kind of like a Diet Coke version of Mauler. It does basically the same thing as Mauler, but you have a worse weapon. 4 out of 10. Stepping back to the Gunrunner's Arsenal DLC, we have the Nuka-Breaker, a truly unique weapon. There is no other melee weapon that, this is a better version of. This is just its own thing. Similar to Embrace of the Mantis King. You buy this from Mick at Mick and Ralph's. And a notable thing about it, this is actually an addition to the game, because it's a DLC thing, that was inspired by the Nuka-Break short, which was a fan-made short film based in Fallout New Vegas. And they're like, hey, that's cool, and they added it to the game. I've never used it before, but it's pretty neato. It does extra electrical damage, which is neat. Yeah, I think it's cool. It's cool that it was originally from a fan thing that was then made into an actual game. Yeah, I like it. It's neat. Purely for where it came from, I would say 8 out of 10. Next up, we have Oh Baby, a unique super sledge. You can find this thing in Charleston Cave, up near Jacobstown, and it's just kind of sitting on the ground next to a dead nightkin. There's a whole lot of night stalkers in this cave, so I would personally recommend having the animal friend perk so you don't have to kill the night stalkers. You can kill the night stalkers, but A, it's going to be hard, B, they're really cool, so I would recommend not killing them, instead grabbing Animal Friend and just walking in there and grabbing it. It's a super sledge, so it's a very, very solid melee weapon, and with it being unique, it's a better super sledge. And it's actually faster, which I did not know. So yeah, it's very good. If you can, get through the cave and get it, this is probably a melee weapon that could carry you through the rest of the game. So we're going to give it an 8 out of 10. Returning back to the Lonesome Road DLC, we have Old Glory. You can retrieve this weapon in one of 2 ways. First is choosing the violent option and killing Ulysses at the end of the Lonesome Road DLC and looting it off of his corpse. Or if you decide to be diplomatic about things and you don't kill Ulysses, or you don't grab it and then leave, you can come back to the Canyon Wreckage and you will find it in a footlocker alongside the Courier Duster and Ulysses' final message. Similar to the Nuka-Breaker, this is a true unique, meaning that there is no other weapon like it. It comes fairly similar to being a unique pull cue, but it's a flag pull. So they don't really have that much in common aside from stick. Similar to various other unique weapons, this has a unique VATS attack. It sports the unique Grand Slam attack, which does 200% extra damage at the cost of 13 more action points. That being said, I would rate this thing as mediocre, but it'll get some extra bonus points for having a bird on it. So we're gonna say this is like a 6.5 out of 10. On to the Humble Cudgel, a unique lead pipe. It actually has a unique visual to it compared to a normal lead pipe. It's kind of bent at the end. It has a little like T connector at the top. Yeah, you get it in the sewers, so you can probably expect how this is going to go purely based off of that. It's just sitting in the sealed sewers of West Vegas, sitting on the body of a dead prospector, and you can grab it, and that's about it. That's the most notable thing about it, because it's a lead pipe, so it is hot trash. It does have a unique attack called Lights Out that can be used in VATS, However, it does 125% more damage. Well, actually, it does 125% damage, not more damage. So it's a quarter stronger than normal, which isn't a lot. 2 out of 10, because at least it looks unique. And now, to end off the melee weapons, we go back to the big MT for the X2 antenna. You get this weapon at the top of the X2 transmitter antenna array, as you can probably expect, because it's literally the antenna, and you just kind of walk up there and rip it off. This is the slowest melee weapon in the game. It is so slow, but it hits pretty damn hard. It has a fairly high base damage, and when it crits, those crits do a lot of damage, on top of actually dealing bonus damage to robots in power armor because it's like electrified or whatever. This is a shockingly good weapon. You just kind of have to deal with it being slow as hell. So if you're doing a melee VATS build, the X2 antenna is actually a really solid option. Shockingly, I was not expecting this, but I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Okay, so this video, I have been recording for almost an hour now, and we haven't even gotten to the majority of the unique weapons yet, so I think I'm actually gonna split this up into multiple videos. But seeing as how I was not expecting this to take as long as it did, we're gonna cut this video here. If you genuinely enjoyed this video and would like to see more, consider dropping this video a like, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to become a pup if you haven't already, and to hit the bell so it actually does something. If you want to support me in the channel, you can do so on Patreon for just $5 a month, and you'll get a bunch of cool perks. A huge shout out to all of my current patrons, your support is very much appreciated. My name's Vixie, and I will see you all in the next one.